Hey there, America! Let's talk about something we try to avoid, our national debt. It's a scary number, folks. We're talking trillions with a T. That's like more money than there are grains of sand on a beach or stars in the sky. Okay, maybe not that much, but it's a lot. We're not talking about your average credit card bill here. This debt belongs to all of us, and it's getting bigger by the minute. It's like we're at an all-you-can-eat buffet, but instead of food, it's borrowed money. And we're not just eating for ourselves, we're racking up the bill for future generations. So, buckle up, Buttercup, because we're diving headfirst into the wacky world of national debt. We'll break it down in a way even your drunk uncle at Thanksgiving can understand. Because this is important stuff, people. It's time to face the music and figure out how to get our financial house in order. Okay, picture this. You're the US government and you need some cash. Not just a little bit, but a whole lot of it. We're talking billions, even trillions of dollars. Maybe you're throwing a massive party for the entire country. Wouldn't that be nice? Imagine a celebration so grand that it makes New Year's Eve in Times Square look like a small backyard barbecue. Or maybe you're investing in things like roads, schools, and healthcare. These are the essential services that keep the country running smoothly and ensure a better quality of life for everyone. Now, you could raise taxes to cover the costs, but nobody likes a tax hike. It's a surefire way to make people grumble and protest, and it could even cost you votes in the next election. So what do? You borrow money, of course. It's the quickest and easiest way to get the funds you need without immediately upsetting the taxpayers. You issue bonds, which are basically IOUs to investors, promising to pay them back with interest. These bonds are sold to individuals, corporations, and even foreign governments. Think of it like your credit card. You swipe it now, enjoy the instant gratification, and worry about the bill later. It's a convenient way to get what you want or need without having to pay for it up front. Except in this case, the bill is massive and keeps growing. The national debt is like a snowball rolling down a hill, getting bigger and bigger as it goes. And instead of just affecting your credit score, it could impact the entire country's economy. High levels of debt can lead to higher interest rates, inflation, and even a financial crisis. So yeah, it's a little more complicated than that. The government has to carefully manage its borrowing to avoid negative consequences, and that involves a lot of planning and strategy. But the basic idea is the same. We're spending more than we're taking in, and we're relying on borrowed money to make up the difference. It's a delicate balancing act that requires constant attention. And just like with your credit card, if we keep racking up debt, it's going to have some serious consequences. The more we borrow, the more we have to pay back, and that can limit our ability to invest in the future. So, next time you swipe your credit card, think about the US government and its massive borrowing. It's a reminder that managing money, whether on a personal or national level, is a complex and ongoing challenge. In the end, it's all about finding the right balance between spending and saving, borrowing and repaying, and that's something we can all relate to, whether we're managing our own finances or the finances of an entire country. Well, it wasn't always this bad. The national debt has been around since the founding of our country. Even George Washington had to borrow money to fight the Revolutionary War. But for a long time, the debt was relatively manageable. Then came the wars, recessions, and tax cuts. Each time the government needed a quick cash infusion, it turned to borrowing. And guess what? It became a habit. It's like that friend who always borrows a 20 and never pays you back. Except in this case, the friend is the government, and the 20 is actually $1 trillion. And let's not forget about the interest payments. Remember those IOUs we talked about? Well, they come with interest. And the more debt we accumulate, the more we have to shell out just to cover the interest. It's a vicious cycle, my friends. Section 4, Spending Spree, Why We Keep Adding to the Tab. Now, before we start pointing fingers, let's be clear, there's no single villain in this story. It's easy to blame one group or another, but the reality is far more nuanced. It's a complex issue with many contributing factors. The economy is like a giant puzzle and every piece affects the others. But here are a few of the main culprits, the big ticket items that really add up. Fighting wars is expensive, folks. The costs of maintaining a military presence, supplying troops, and rebuilding after conflicts are astronomical. And we've been in a lot of them. From the Middle East to other global hotspots, these engagements have drained resources. Recessions. When the economy takes a nosedive, tax revenue goes down, and government spending on things like unemployment benefits goes up. This creates a double whammy effect. This often leads to more borrowing. Governments need to find ways to stimulate the economy, and that usually means taking on more debt. Tax cuts. Lowering taxes might sound good in theory, but it also means less money coming into the government's coffers. While it can stimulate economic growth, it also reduces the revenue needed to fund essential services. And you know what that means? More borrowing. The gap between income and expenditure widens, leading to a reliance on borrowed funds. Entitlement programs. Programs like Social Security and Medicare are incredibly important, but they're also very expensive. These programs provide a safety net for millions, but they come with a hefty price tag. As the population ages, these programs are only going to get more costly, the number of beneficiaries is increasing, and the costs of healthcare and pensions are rising. So it's a combination of factors that have led us to this point. Each of these elements plays a role in the larger financial picture. But the bottom line is this: we're spending more than we're taking in, and we're relying on borrowed money to make up the difference. This creates a cycle of debt that is hard to break, and that's not sustainable in the long run. If we continue down this path, the consequences could be severe. We need to find a balance between spending and revenue to ensure a stable economic future. Section 5. The price we pay. Higher taxes, fewer benefits, and a shaky economy. Okay, so we've established that we're in a bit of a debt hole. This isn't just a minor inconvenience, it's a significant issue that affects every aspect of our lives. But what does that actually mean for you and me? How does this abstract concept of national debt translate into our daily lives? Well, it could have a whole bunch of negative consequences, including higher taxes. Remember those IOUs we talked about? Those aren't just numbers on a page, they represent real money that has to come from somewhere. Well, eventually, we're going to have to pay them back, and that means more money out of your pocket and mine. And that means either raising taxes or cutting spending, or, more likely, a combination of both. Higher taxes can reduce disposable income, making it harder for families to make ends meet. Fewer benefits. Speaking of cutting spending, the government might decide to reduce funding for essential services. One way the government could try to reduce the debt is by slashing funding for important programs like Social Security, which many elderly citizens rely on for their livelihood. Medicare, which provides health care to millions, and education, which is crucial for the future of our children. And that could have a devastating impact on millions of Americans. Imagine the strain on families who are already struggling to make ends meet. Economic instability. A high national debt can lead to inflation, higher interest rates, and slower economic growth. Inflation erodes the purchasing power of your money, making everything more expensive. And that's bad news for everyone. Higher interest rates can make loans and mortgages more expensive, putting a strain on both individuals and businesses. In short, a high national debt can have a ripple effect throughout the entire economy, affecting everything from job creation to the cost of goods and services, making life harder for everyone. It's not just an abstract problem, it's something that impacts our daily lives in very real ways. It's like a giant weight dragging us down, making it harder to get ahead. This weight affects our ability to save, invest, and plan for the future, making it harder to get ahead. The burden of debt can stifle innovation and entrepreneurship, making it difficult for new businesses to thrive and for existing ones to expand. In the end, the consequences of a high national debt are far-reaching and deeply impactful, affecting not just the economy but the very fabric of our society. But it's not all doom and gloom. By understanding these challenges, we can work together to find solutions and build a more stable and prosperous future for everyone. Section 6. Imagine this: debt's impact on your everyday life. Still not convinced this is a big deal? Okay, let's bring it down to a personal level. Imagine you're trying to buy a house, but you've got a mountain of credit card debt. What do you think will happen to your interest rate? That's right, it's going to be sky high. Lenders see you as a risky borrower, and they're going to charge you accordingly. The same thing can happen to countries with high national debt. Investors become wary of lending us money, which can drive up interest rates and make it more expensive for the government to borrow. And guess what? Those higher interest rates can trickle down to you and me in the form of higher interest rates on mortgages, car loans, and even credit cards. So yeah, the national debt might seem like this abstract concept, but it can have very real consequences for our everyday lives. Section 7. Time to face the music. We can't ignore this problem any longer. Look, I get it. Talking about the national debt isn't exactly a barrel of laughs. It's complex, it's scary, and it feels like there's no easy solution. But here's the thing. We can't just ignore it and hope it goes away. This is a problem that's going to require some tough choices and some serious compromise from both sides of the aisle. We need to have an honest conversation about our spending priorities, our tax system, and how we're going to ensure the long-term health of our economy. Because if we don't, the consequences could be dire. So let's channel our inner grown-ups, folks. Let's put aside our differences and work together to find a way out of this mess. The future of our country depends on it.